I guess before we dive in, we could talk about what's going on here. So, this is basically like a red-green fair mid-range deck, which may or may not be okay in a world of giant 8/8s on turn 2 that combo mill you. We got a couple copies of Wrenn and Six here as just kind of a way to both regrow fetch lands, cycle lands, blast zone, field of ruin, ghost quarters, got a variety of things. This picks back up with utility. This is kind of like a life from the loam that also like can impact the board a little bit when we're not interested in loaming. So that's somewhat interesting. We'll see if the -1 is good enough. We got some Hexdrinkers down here at the bottom that I think there's a chance. That this is like a reasonable-ish card in the format. It depends on like how interactive and how linear the format is at its core. So like if the format's just going to get less interactive, this card becomes worse. But a 2/1 that scales up seems fine against like mid-range and control decks. I'm not sure if this card's constructed playable. Yeah, and one of the other concerns with this deck is I'm not 100. Yeah, it's kind of a red-green rock deck in a way without discard spells. So like discard spells are one of the best ways to not die to unfair things out of the rock deck. So this doesn't have that. One of my big concerns is that this deck's like trying to play things like Faithless Looting and Seasoned Pyromancer, but like doesn't really have ways to generate value out of the graveyard. And in my experience playing Faithless Looting in decks like this in the past, Faithless Looting has felt like pretty consistently underwhelming just because it doesn't it's card disadvantage, right? Like if you're not getting some kind of busted effect out of your graveyard, Faithless Looting is frequently not good enough. And let's dive into some matches, see how they go. This might be a quick one if we run into a few combo decks. We do have some good sideboard cards. We got Cages and Spheres and Surgicals, but would not be surprised if this deck has quite the struggle against a number of the decks that we consider good in Modern. I mean, and so like this is something to think about too, Percy, is like this, like playing this card in a deck like this, like probably ultimately isn't a very good measure of its power. In large part just due to the fact that like the core of this deck, all the cards surrounding it aren't necessarily cards that are in a constructed playable combination. So like putting this card in a shell like this could just be setting it up to fail. Another thing that's worth noting that I've experienced in decks that aren't green-black rock is that, like, this deck is trying to play Tarmogoyf, and without discard spells, Tarmogoyf is frequently a lot smaller. Hey, the Karn Father. Thank you for the 10 months and the very generous tier 3 at that. Welcome back. Hope life's treating you well. Well, I unfortunately have a Blast Zone in my hand here and not a Ghost Quarter or a Field of Ruin. Yeah, I think there's a lot of shells in Legacy where he's just like a better loam. Just because like he kills Young Pyromancer and Unflipped Over. And Bob, among other things. This feels good already. You and I have very different definitions of feel good. Casting this card and picking a land back up when my opponent's playing Amulet Titan, I feel like I'm in a position where I can't win the game. I feel like I'm incredibly unlikely to do anything meaningful from here. Also worth noting, this Wren fights with keeping cards in my graveyard for Tarmogoyf is like something else. You and I have different definitions of fun too, because losing a game where I'm kind of helpless and can't do anything isn't really my definition of fun either. Skullmorn, thanks to 11 months. I appreciate that. Welcome back. I feel like this deck is likely to have a lot of the same problems that like blue-red control decks tend to have in Modern, which is that like trying to lean on Lightning Bolt as your primary form of interaction in this format just doesn't interact with enough things meaningfully enough. Morning, Geodude. Yep. Yay. So for people that aren't familiar with the Hive Mind combo, Hive Mind alongside Summoner's Pact gives us a copy of Summoner's Pact, which means we have to pay 4 mana or we lose the game. So, I mean, I wish I could be I wish I could be optimistic and tell you that, like, that was unexpected, but, like I said, on the very first turn of the game, like, felt like I just basically couldn't win because I didn't have any meaningful interaction there. And that is basically how the game played out. I couldn't do anything and then I died. I have this Beast Within and these few Damping Spheres here to, like, technically interact with my opponent. Maybe I bring in Collector Ouphe just because it's better than Scavenging Ooze. Scavenging Ooze doesn't really have a text box in this matchup. Anything resembling an average draw, I feel like is gonna just destroy us out of the opponent's deck. Since it's your day, do you have a recommendation for a good home office chair? I'd recommend a standing desk. That's the best piece of advice I can give your body. Standing desks are worth every penny. Shadow Boy, thank you for the 3rd viewer. I appreciate that. Welcome back. This is a deck that before Modern Horizon cards came out, I probably would have rejected it, but I loosened up some of my submission standards to a wider range of things. Yeah, I'd not been accepting decks like this, Burgle, to a large degree. But I elected to loosen the requirements a little bit. I'm definitely regretting doing that a bit. It's fine. We'll grit our teeth and kind of run through it and show why these decks aren't really constructed playable. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong though, Burgle. Like, a lot of the decks that people want to try and submit, they have like these like really novel ideas of like what Modern is, and it's just like this is not just not what the format's about. I thought about getting a standing desk, and then I realized I'm lazy and don't ever want to be standing. Alright, well, if they don't have a Disenchant or a... Oh, look at that! We get to turn off the activated abilities of their Amulet of Vigor. That's exciting. It's exciting, chat. However will they play Magic without the activated abilities of their Amulet of Vigor? Leaning on the Faithless Looting here is very important because Damping Sphere is symmetrical and it counts spells you've played before it in a turn. The frames I have are the Kelvin frames on their site. If you look in the subs Discord, I linked the exact frames that I have in the announcements channel. I actually think this card's probably pretty reasonable against other fair decks in the format. Now, you could make the argument that there's not enough fair decks in the format for it to be meaningful, and I would accept that argument as being fair. But I think if you're expecting to play some amount of fair Magic in this format, that Hexdrinker is probably more than reasonable. Captain Ness, thank you for the Twitch Prime support. There's a lot of great people making a lot of great stuff on Twitch right now. Thanks for supporting mine this month with that. So our Damping Sphere has text for the time being, so that's nice. So opponent's not really gonna do a whole lot to us while we fumble and bumble around here a bit. So I could just smack them around with Nissa Vital Force. I watch a ton of your YouTube content and tune into streams when I can. Love it. Well, thanks for dropping off the Prime. Twitch Prime pays my mortgage these days, so God bless. Yeah, I agree. I think this card seems fine in like Jund and Rock decks. So I think I just pick the Vista up and then play it and sacrifice it. I think I want to dig for a Bolt to kill their Tireless Tracker. Alright, so I think I'm just going to be casting Faithless Looting again here. And then next turn, if I draw the bolt, I can upkeep kill this before they get to make any clues with it. I did not find that. I don't have extra mana for this. Don't really have extra stuff for this. Already played a land for the turn. Pass. He did the man. They did the monster man. Do 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 do. Thank you for the 4-month resub. I appreciate that. Welcome back. So not to jab at your vision necessarily, Monk, but these actually aren't prescription glasses for me, although they do prescription glasses as well. Oh, look at that. It kills my Planeswalker and my Damping Sphere. What a joy. What a joy. Hey, Arwell, thank you for the 2-month resub. I appreciate that. Welcome back. I had already activated this Wren when I had drawn this Wren from a Faithless Looting. Yeah, they're blue light filtering lenses to reduce eye stress, cut down on things like headaches related to too much screen time. I guess I just do this because it kills the amulet. I'm just gonna get Wren. Yeah, I'm just gonna get Wren ticking up again here, just because they're at 22, so like putting Goyf into play like is not really meaningfully a faster clock. I mean, does it really help? Like, how do I again, we're like kind of doing stuff, but like they go land cast Titan here. Like, how do I beat a 6/6, right? I just don't. Like, how do I win the game from here? What are the series of plays that happen that allow me to actually be successful from this position? And there just aren't, right? Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next one. I made a point to fire up early so we could get 2 full Modern Leagues in without cutting them short. I'm thinking that's probably not going to be an issue being 15 minutes into this one. Hey, Havoc. Thanks for the 17 months. I appreciate that. Top 32 with Bant Arcbow yesterday at SCGCon Summer Championship. Awesome, Hayes. Congrats. It doesn't meaningfully block the Titan. Their Titans get Slayer Strongholds to get bigger. Their Titans get more Titans. Like, again, the reason why the Titan deck is good is because when they play the Titan, you're not playing against one Titan. You have to beat all 4 Titans once they play the first one. And without a significant amount of pressure, you can't just kill them and kill the first Titan and then expect to get through to them, right? And like they're at 22. My deck doesn't have real removal. My deck doesn't have discard spells. My deck doesn't have counter spells. I don't have a way to beat 4 Titans from that position. I'm doing all right, Monster Man. Life is swell. Green-black Elves doesn't... I think Collector Ouphe... probably replaces... Collector Ouphe probably replaces Revoker in the sideboard. That's true. The Tireless Tracker got to draw a couple cards. We drew a couple cards and then we died. Oh, good. Oh, goody. Double bridge from below. Excellent. I've got this here Wrenn and Six. We're gonna outvalue these bridge from belows. I don't know what you're referring to, Will. mean, I don't know that this really says anything about the format so much as it says something about, like, trying to brew with underpowered cards. Like, the reason, when I'm more stringent on deck submission requirements, the reason that I frequently reject decks that I give is this deck is not linear enough or interactive enough to be competitive in the format. And I think this deck is just a fantastic example of those two things. This deck is neither linear nor super interactive, and thus it's just not competitive in the format. We're going to play 3 matches here showing why that's the case, but it is what it is. To upload all of our lists to YouTube. I remember watching you play, but don't think I saw it on YouTube. Actual everything goes up there, Captain. Naya. The Naya Feather deck even got a page on my website, magicesports.net. You can click video standard, or you can just click standard decks, and there's a Naya Feather page. Ooh, exciting. For those of you that aren't familiar, the opponent is playing the Bridge Hakan deck, which had 10 copies in the top 32 of the Modern Challenge this past Saturday, with 3 copies of those being in the top 8. This deck can put upwards of 30 power into play on turn 2 with a good draw, and also just completely combo kill you. I think we actually might be okay here. This is whenever anything dies, even a token, right? So yeah, so I actually get to play the Master Chef here, the Seasoned Pyromancer, and make a couple of 1/1s, and then Wren's gonna kill one of the 1/1s to exile their bridges. So this exiles their bridges from below. Altar of Dementia here. Sacrifices a creature to make target player put a number of cards equal to sacrifice creature's power from the top of their library into their graveyard. So their bridges are dead. They have a couple of 2/2s. Yeah, I can do that for you, Sunshine. For larger nations, I'm always willing to be a little flexible. It'll likely be up first or second for the standard portion on tomorrow then. This is a really sweet interaction with the altar for them. So they get to keep sacrificing their Gravecaller and milling themselves. And they just hit another bridge from below here. They probably should have attacked me before. Yeah, I'm looking forward to, so like while the new format is definitely going to have aggressive decks in it, it's much easier to just say make sure you don't die to mono red, or make sure you don't die to white weenie aggro, as opposed to making sure you don't die to Amulet and to Tron and to Bridgevine and to Dredge and to Storm. Like having to like, yeah, like I could never like the fact that they're likely to combo kill us this turn aside, I probably just can't beat an 8/8 with this deck. I'm gonna let my opponent fully kill me this game. Like, so normally if my opponent's deck was something that like we were used to seeing, I would concede here because I'm pretty confident we just can't win the game from this position. Oh, we drew Lightning Axe. We're so good at this, chat. I am so glad we drew this Lightning Axe, because this is a fantastic example of I can kill this and it just doesn't matter. Because you can cast this card from the graveyard, chat. You can cast this card from the graveyard. Like all fair, reasonable things in Modern, this one can be cast from the graveyard. Oh, look, they're altering to mill themselves 8. Oh, look, they hit a Vengevine. Instead of me telling you you're wrong, Lithanol, can you tell me why you're right? Why should I Ghost Quarter the player who has a Bloodghast in their graveyard? Can you explain to me why that's a good idea? Alright, I'm gonna fetch an auto pass, just let them do their thing so you can see how they die. There's really not a good... I guess I could just take this and put it over my board, because my board is largely... My board just doesn't matter. Because what I'm doing is irrelevant here. So yeah, I could just do this. Yeah, definitely, Karnfather. So, my opponent is currently milling their entire deck into their graveyard, which will then allow them to get a bunch of Vengevines back here, and then cast this Hakan, and like, they could kill me by attacking, but to assert dominance, they should sacrifice all of their creatures to make me mill out. Because this card can be cast again and again and again, and mill for 8 each time. And it doesn't just mill for 8, because when it dies, it also leaves behind a Bridge from Below token. So it effectively mills for 10 every time they cast it. What turn is this? They were really slow this game. What an incredibly slow game. This is the 5th turn. Jeez, opponent. Do you even Modern? This is turn 5. So, I mean, like, sweet is only sweet because it's new and novel. Like, once you've had this happen to you every other match for a dozen matches for, you know, a month, like, it's far less sweet. Novel, I think, is a better description than sweet. Alright, and they've got 2 bridges now. So now each Hakan activation mills for 12. Kuzler, thank you for the 2x3 sub. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Can you turn the blue-white changelings list into an actual humans list, possibly with Ravenous Traps in the sideboard? You want to just like a traditional humans list with the 2-drop changeling in it, Scholar? How reliant is their deck on looting? Our opponent actually didn't have a looting to get this game started. They did all of this with just the Altar of Dementia. So they have a variety of ways to get things into their graveyard. And I'm just going to concede from here. So I've got 29 cards in my deck, and they've got 12, you know, 30, 40. They've got like 40 power here. So we're very, very milled out. They can cast these Hakans 3 or 4 more times, like. Yeah, I can make a note to do that, Scholar. Yeah, I think when we play Elves, I'm probably going to put a bunch of ley lines in the sideboard. Maybe I'll just go up to 4 Surgicals. I could just see going up to 4 Surgicals. All right. I've got 2 Surgicals and 2 Grafdigger's Cages, and I've got these main deck Scavenging Oozes. Got these Lightning Axes that don't do a whole lot, and Nissa Vital Force is kind of mediocre. Yeah, 4 ley lines definitely better against the opponent's deck, Burgle. That's for sure. Yeah, Surgical's not very good versus the 8/8. That is also true. Nah, I think I'd rather just jam Leyline. If you're gonna play more than 4 pieces of Graveyard Hate, 4 of them should be Leylines, I think. It's funny, people talk about, we're talking about, like, Force of Negation, like, finally being Force of Will for Modern, when in reality, we've had Force of Will inside of Modern the entire time, in Leyline of the Void, because, like, Modern is a format where basically almost all the most busted things involve the graveyard, like Tron aside. Like, the things that you really want a Force-style effect against, Leyline is actually better against. Yeah, I agree, Burgle. Actually, it's funny, Burgle. Someone had listed... I read a couple of different write-ups about the opponent's deck, and one of them had actually listed Elves as a bad matchup, which I could believe just because the Elf deck is incredibly consistent, right? Like, my opponent eventually did something obnoxious to that game, and while they can combo on turn 2 and turn 3, like, that game they didn't go off till turn 5. And Elves kills people very, very consistently by, like, the 4th turn of the game. Sometimes on the 3rd turn, but oh gosh. Look at this curve, chat. We've got turn 1 Hexdrinker, turn 2 Wrenn and Six, turn 3 Tireless Tracker. I bet my opponent is currently quaking in fear. Can you feel the terror emanating from my opponent's side of the board? Look at my sweet Planeswalker that was $40 2 days ago. Chat, this card wouldn't have been $40 if it wasn't really, really good. That's how MTG Finance works. Only the good cards are expensive. This card's busted. No, I can just swap that out card. Red, green, shift to, Bridgevine. What does Hexdrinker do? It attacks for 2. Is the new set really not on the bot yet? It's a 2/1 for 1 that you can pump mana into to eventually make it Progenitus. Alright. Slide my opponent's hand to the top of the board here. Yeah, that's really what Hexdrinker does. It's offered as a sacrificial lamb to Wren to exile bridges. Oh, look. Oh, look. There's an 8/8. That's completely reasonable and beatable. For those, not that everybody's counting at home, but this is turn 2, and my opponent has put 8, 10, 12. Oh, just 13 power into play on turn 2. Oh. That's interesting, opponent. But how shall you best my Tireless Tracker? How shall you best my Tireless Tracker, opponent? And I can't bother to kill these 2/1s. I guess I could kill the 1/1 and let them mill 3 cards, but these ones come back. Thank goodness Stoneforge Mystic is banned. My opponent would never be able to win if I'd have cast Batterskull this turn. Good golly. Yeah, Birthing Pod's sweet design-wise, too. Yeah, I did. My Wrenn and Six did draw a card. All right, I'm done here. We're done. I feel like we've demonstrated what's currently occurring. All right, I'm gonna queue up one more on the off chance we find someone who is stupid enough to register Raging Ravine or Celestial Colonnade. Because if we find someone who has also elected to play a bunch of Fair Magic, we can maybe have some back and forth. So I'm gonna roll the dice one more time here and hope for the best. And before Storm, hey, against Storm, I have Damping Spheres, Grafdigger's Cages, and Surgical Extraction. So I have a lot of hate cards there. I asked the question and then I elected not to play it, Burgle. Actually, Punchworthy, you can't equip Batterskull to a Hexdrinker because a Hexdrinker has protection from everything at the highest level. Oh, you're saying when it's on level 3. I got it. At level 3 through 7, you could equip it. But once you're level 8, Hexdrinker has moved beyond such things as equipment. Yeah, there's no color distorting with the Felix classes, which is the big appeal over using them like something like a software filter that like makes your screen very red. Ooh, Scavenging Ooze. Those busted graveyard decks will never be able to beat us now. We've got our main deck graveyard hate. I don't believe so, Sal, but I am not a judge. Copperline Gorge, cast Faithless Looting, opponent starts quaking in terror. We discard Blast Zones, they wipe the sweat from their brow. You've always been able to zoom in on cards on Moto. Oh, my opponent register Wild Nicottle. We're gonna get to actually play Magic. Oh, my sweet summer child. Thank you for giving us a chance. Wild Nicottle, gonna give it to you. we'll do a full sponsor plug later, obviously, as always. But so the glass are something I've been happy with for last week, so we added a referral link for them. And while the referral link doesn't get you a discount on the glasses that you're ordering, I am giving folks who sign in with their Twitch account when they click through to order them the ability to bump a deck in the deck queue by 20 points. So if you decide you're interested in picking up a pair of the blue light filtering glasses, I come in prescription or non from Felix. Make sure to use my link. You'll get to bump something up that you want to see a little bit sooner. So if they decide to bump uglies here, we'll be able to bolt their Tarmogoyf to finish it off. And these are both very ugly Tarmogoyfs, let's be honest here. Dreadhorde Arcanist. Oh. Reckless Charge. Actual factual, man. Talk about a blast from my childhood. That is actual factual Odyssey block Reckless Charge. So they're actually just using this Dreadhorde to, like, oh, you know what? I shouldn't have fetched. I'm gonna get Mutagenic Growth here, aren't I? I'm so dumb. This is modern. There's free spells here. I was like, they're just giving us as a freebie. They're not. They're casting Mutagenic Growth. So obviously, I should have blocked here, but I should have waited to fetch so I could bolt this in response. I feel like it will be ironic for me to get those glasses after getting LASIK. That's true. We've got some mutagenic growths in our next one ourselves. Faithless Looting looking incredibly embarrassing here in a hand where I don't have any extra resources to discard. They boarded in Tormod's Crypt. Well, I guess that gives me something to discard to Faithless Looting now. Without something like Wrenn and Six to, like, get extra lands back from the discard pile, Faithless Looting just doesn't accomplish a whole lot. Yep, that's mutagenic growth. I'm gonna be honest, Gara. I was hoping and kind of expecting it to do the same, and as is frequently demonstrated to be the case, as card pools get larger, combo and aggressive decks tend to get better as opposed to fair interactive decks. Ooh! I drew Wrenn and Six to generate valuable card advantage with my Faithless Lootings. I'm done. We're dead. Just not. Let's just move on. There's a Tormod's Crypt here. I'm all alone. There's no one here beside me. At least we have this Windows XP interface. Look at that. Didn't didn't even manage to win a game. And because they changed the format of constructed leagues, now instead of losing $7 to go 0-3 in a league, I get to lose $10 to go 0-3 in a league. Yay! Magic Online. It's not online gambling. It's like just to put a wrap up at the end here for, I know some people click to the end for these videos. This deck's not fair enough or interactive enough to be competitive in Modern. It's just not. Like, Black-Green Rock struggles to be good enough, and this deck has less interactive tools than that deck does. Yeah, that's exactly what they're for, Tony. They reduce stress-related headaches. The London Mulligan has been implemented on Magic Online, but it's not currently active. They removed it, and they're not giving it back until it becomes the official rule of 2020. Yeah, and I mean, like, Black-Green Rocks, like, already struggles to be a playable Modern deck, so, like, when you take that archetype and make it worse, it's really not good enough. It's actually funny, or maybe it's sad in a way. I would bet dollars that maybe I should just stop saying it, but like, I would bet money that my references to Magic Online effectively being online gambling is one of the things that actually makes me the biggest liability for WotC. Because, like, Magic Online definitely feels like it's had security through obscurity when it comes to being, like, gone after for things like that. And, like, me being someone semi-prominent in the community pointing that out, they probably something they don't like. So maybe I shouldn't do it, but I also just, like it quite literally is online gambling with the way the secondary market works on this application. As someone who's, like, had years where I, like, have cashed thousands of dollars out from having good leagues and good events on this application, like, it is online gambling. So you'd gamble that calling MTGO gambling? I would, Isha. That is a very astute way to put it. Well, I mean, Dredge is really slow and fair compared to the new Hakan deck. Like, Bridgevine has always been faster than Dredge. When you hit